The housing market is, well, I guess it really just depends on where you're at. The housing market here in Southern Oregon, or real estate market, whichever you want to call it, tends to be pretty different than other parts of the country and tends to be really different than what you see on the news about the national housing market. We're kind of in our own little bubble here. So if you're thinking about buying or selling real estate in Southern Oregon, why would you get your information from a source that's focused on the national market when it's so different than what we're experiencing here? Welcome to your weekly update of the Southern Oregon real estate market information. This is episode 2, and it is June 28th, 2023. And I'm going to share some data with you today about the past week, what we've seen happen in the past week in the local housing market here. And then I'm going to just talk to you about what that all means, what my impressions are of it, and so that you as a homeowner or a potential buyer, seller, or investor have the information that you need to be able to make the decisions that you need to make regarding real estate or to just stay informed if that's what you'd like to do. I'm Brian Simmons with eXp Realty, and I'm a licensed real estate agent here in Southern Oregon, and I thank you for tuning in. So without further ado, we are going to dive on into the data, and then I'm going to discuss my thoughts. So here we go. Okay, so diving into the data. So June 28th here, as of this morning, we have 1,128 single-family residential homes on the market between Jackson and Josephine counties of Southern Oregon, okay? In the past week, we had 138 new listings hit the market, 131 price changes, 40 listings came back on the market, 114 listings went pending, 92 closed, and 25 were either expired, withdrawn, or canceled. So when you look at that, what it really, to me, jumps out is, obviously inventory went up again to just over 1,100, but the number that was jumping out to me was that 138 new listings. That's the pretty big number, really. Biggest we've seen in, since May, middle of May. So we were up, 142 new listings back then, and then kind of slid into the 120s, and now back up to 138. So generally that happens when there's some sort of, holiday weekend or something where people didn't want to, to list their home on a weekend where it might go unnoticed. The only thing I'm aware of for last weekend was Rooster Crow and Rogue River, and I don't think people plan their listings around Rooster Crow. So maybe, but I don't know. But I don't know what really the rationale is for that being elevated like it is, but whatever, it's cool. It's not super elevated, it's just a little bit, but yeah, a little bit more new listings than I expected to see there. We do also see a good number on pending activity. So 114 pending is the highest we've seen again since kind of middle of May, and the 92 closings was nice too. So all of those nice, good numbers. They're all kind of maintaining the same levels of as a percentage of inventory. That's one of the things I really like to look at is price changes, for example, as a percentage of inventory. We've been about 11, 12, let's say 10 to 12%, pretty stable forever. So as the inventory has been rising, price changes have been rising too, but it's all been kind of, nice and related, right? So it's never gotten outside of that 10 to 12% range. So anyways, that's kind of what I'm seeing there in the data. Nothing really too crazy or groundbreaking jumps out at me there. What it does look like and what I wanted to kind of talk about today is, what is the housing market right now? And if I were to characterize it, what is it and what isn't it? What it is, in my mind, is stable and probably surprisingly so. I think a lot of people see, mortgage rates going up and up and up, and then, they've stabilized at under 7%. But people kind of expected that to lead to values, declining significantly or a crash or whatever. And what we're seeing is just that's not the case. Like the market has just been chugging right along. I think people don't like interest rates being as high as they are, but they're dealing with it. Okay. And so, a lot of people that I've talked to recently, as recently as yesterday, have even said, they expect to see rates kind of stabilize in the fives at some point. Probably not this year, as we're halfway through the year right now, but probably next year, getting back into the 5 range and seeing those kind of stabilize. And what will that do to the market? So again, like we're seeing the market be very stable, despite the high rates and despite the headlines and everything about the Fed and the inflation and the economy and all this kind of negativity. The market's just persevered through all of that, which is great. It shows that it's very resilient and very healthy. So to me, those are all very, very positive things. I think this is one of the best outcomes that we could have expected or could have had, given the situation with the economy and like I said, inflation and all these sorts of things. It's really one of the best outcomes we could have had, is to see the housing market just chug right along as it has and not have a big decline or anything. And so that kind of brings me to my next thought, which is, if it is stable, then what isn't it? And what it isn't is crashing. Like no doubt about it. The housing market is not crashing, not in any measurable sense. There's a little bit of a decline in the amount of volume, and volume meaning just the number of closed transactions. And so again, like if we look at the last, let's say 6 weeks, this year, we talked about this last week, but we averaged, call it 80 closes a week for the last 6 weeks. Okay, if I go to last year, let me just scroll up here. We averaged, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 105, right? So we went from 105 closed transactions per week to 80. That's not a gigantic change. I mean, it's noticeable, but it's not like a crash. Home values aren't falling as a result of that, or at least not significantly. There's some segments of the market that are more desirable than others, more active than others, but they're not. It's not a wholesale market crash like we saw back in 08 and those times. So why is that? That's really the question that I think a lot of people might be wondering. Well, how come it's not crashing? How come these high interest rates haven't really had a major effect? And what I always come back to on that is simply supply and demand. Let's not overthink this. Okay, if we have 1,100 homes on the market right now, well, let's just simplify it and say 1,000, just for simple math. Let's say there's 1,000 homes on the market, which we were at just a month ago. All right, so 1,000 homes on the market in Jackson and Josephine counties for 300,000 people, plus all the people that are moving into this area and all that. That's not a lot of homes. 1,000 homes for 300,000 people. That's not a lot. Okay, and so simply put, the demand just naturally from the people who are take a job out somewhere else in the country and they need to sell their home, or somebody that is outgrew their first home and they need to buy a bigger home. There's always going to be that like natural turn in the market that is caused by life events, whether it's those that I just mentioned, or retiring, or getting married, or divorced, or whatever it is, a death in the family. Like there's all sorts of things that lead people to having the need to buy or sell real estate. And when you have a population of 300,000 people, like that natural turn is gonna happen. Okay, so with that, we're still only at 3 months worth of inventory. Okay, just with that natural supply and demand. And when you add in a little bit of other people coming in from other parts of the country, which we experience obviously with people coming up from California, which is whatever. Some people love it, some people hate it, but it is what it is. And it's a good thing for our market, frankly, in my opinion, because it just adds the demand. And that's what's got us into the position where we have a very healthy real estate market, in my opinion, again. So anyways, that's kind of what I'm seeing, is like, that's why I feel like we haven't experienced a crash. You look at other parts of the country where, they've had these big, huge national builders come in and pump out, 1,000 homes in a new subdivision. And then all of a sudden things start to turn and they're slashing their prices to try to sell their inventory. And then that, kind of leads their market down, because those home prices are going down, and then everybody else has to kind of chase them down. And it just is a bad thing. We don't have that here. So we're in a uniquely good little bubble for housing. And anyways, that's kind of what kind of what I see happening right now. So hopefully that helps you understand a little bit about what the data shows us in our local Southern Oregon housing market here today. If you would like to see this same update every week, the weekly update on the Southern Oregon housing market information, just subscribe to my YouTube channel. Click that subscribe button, hit the bell icon so that you are notified when new videos come out. And you can always stay informed about the happenings of the housing market. So again, I'm Brian Simmons with eXp Realty here in Southern Oregon. And if there's anything in the world I can do to help you buy, sell, or just even research, the real estate here in Southern Oregon, I'm happy to help you any way I can. So thank you for watching, and I will see you next week.